Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and we are going to take a look at using Azure File Sync. So previously we set up a file share with just Linux, but we're going to take it a bit further and set up a sync. So what we're going to do is we're going to do two things. We're going to need to set up a new storage account, and we'll also have to launch a virtual machine. Since virtual machines take longer to launch than a storage account, what I want you to do, I still have the old tab here from the last follow along, but what I want you to do is make your way over to virtual machines, open that in a new tab, and we'll go ahead and launch ourselves a Windows server. So up in the top left corner, hit add virtual machine. We'll give it a moment. I'm going to call this new one, well, we can use KeyVOS again, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll say this is KeyVOS, and I'm going to choose this time Windows 2019 server. So we have a Windows server, and I want 2019. It doesn't necessarily have to be, let me just double check here. Yeah, we'll just do 2019 generation 2 here. And we'll scroll on down here, and I'm going to put in Azure user, and then we'll do capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Scroll on down. We are definitely going to want port 3389 open. We'll open up these two ports as well. I think that's okay. And we'll go ahead and hit review and create. Well, actually, before we do that, I don't think I choose the right size. So we'll just wait a moment here as it's complaining, and we'll change this because you can't have a B1LS. We're going to have to go with DSV3, okay? Because it has two vCPUs at the minimum. Actually, we can go with this one here because it just has to be 2 and 4. So I think we can get away with a B2, which is 50 bucks a month, which we're not going to keep that around for very long. We'll go ahead and hit create. We might need, actually before that, I'm just going to add another disk just in case, because I really don't want to have to do this if I have to make another one. And so we're just going to say an empty disk here, I suppose. Yeah, it seems fine to me. And I'm going to go ahead and hit, yeah, we should enable disk now. We'll do nothing there. And we'll say OK. And go ahead and hit review create. And we'll just give it a moment. It takes a little bit of time. We'll go ahead and hit create there. And while that's creating, now we'll go over and make ourselves a storage account. So we'll make a new one here. And we'll call it, we'll put it in our KeyVOS, and we'll call it KeyVOS. We'll stick with standard general 2. That's totally fine for our use case. We'll go ahead and hit create. And this will not take long. It's very fast at making storage accounts. Windows virtual machines, not as fast. So we'll just give it a moment here. And it looks like it's created, so we'll go to the resource. And then under file shares, we'll click on that. We'll create a new file share, and this will be called KeyVOS. And we'll set 5 gigabytes because we really don't need a large one. We'll create it. And so this can be used for Windows or Linux. And in this case, we're going to be using it for Windows. So what we can do, we'll just have to wait for that to finish deploy. But we're going to have to set up Azure Files. So if we go Files, I think we type it in here. Will it show up? No. So if the thing is, we need to get file sync, and it's in a kind of a weird spot. So if we go to all services, and then we type in files, whoops, it was a little bit too quick there. I'm just looking for it here. What if we type in sync? There we go. So what I'm looking for is storage sync services. Can we type it up here, sync? Yeah, so that would have been the way I would have gone and found it there. But we need to find Azure Files. I'm just trying to remember how to get to there. So I could have swore we could type in file sync. Yeah, here it is, Azure File Sync. And so this is how we get to it. I know it's quite a, let me just double check to make sure if that's somewhat, if we can actually type that up here, file sync. No. Okay, so what we want to do is go ahead and create this. If we want to take a look, we can check the plans. This seems okay. So we'll go ahead and hit create. And under here, we're going to put it into KeyVOS. And then for the provider name, it will be the storage sync service name will just be KeyVOS as well. And I guess we'll stick with Central US. I guess it just really depends on where our virtual machine storage account is. I hope everything's launching in the same place. I don't think it matters, but I'm just going to double check here. So this one is in Canada East, and then our storage account, let's just go take a look where it is. It is in Canada East. So maybe we can launch this in Canada East. If it doesn't give us any grief, it doesn't, so that's great. We'll go ahead and hit create. And we'll give that a little bit of time there. And if our instance is ready, we should go ahead and connect to it, because there's going to be a couple things we need to install, okay? So I'm going to go over to RDP here, and we're going to download the RDP file, and that's going to open up that. So we'll just double click it. We'll say connect. If you're on a Mac, you got to download the client. If you're on Windows, it should be pre-installed. If you're on a Chromebook, you'll have to use a Bastion. But I'm going to type in Azure user, and that password capital T, testing 1 2 3 4 5 6. We'll hit OK. I'll say yes. I'll connect. And we'll just give it a moment there to load. We are going to need 2 things we need to install, but just give me a moment here. I'll go fetch them. All right, so now that we have our Windows machine, we're inside of it here. What I want you to do is open up PowerShell. So if you type in PowerShell, we do need to run this in administrator mode, so just type it in. It's a little bit slow when you're RDPing, which is totally fine. And what I want you to do is right-click and run as an administrator. And what we're going to do is install Azure RM, because we need it in order to use the Azure file sync agent, okay? So type in install-module, and then type in name, Azure RM, and then we'll say allow Clobber. Don't ask me what Clobber does. I have no idea, but that's what Microsoft or Azure tells us that we should, whoops, did I spell it right? No, it's all correct. Okay, that we should do. This thing is pretty darn slow, so we'll just have to wait here a little while. And once that's done, we'll continue on to the next part, okay? Okay, so after waiting a little bit, it asks us a question, so we're just gonna hit Y to everything. All right, and as that's going here, it can take a little bit of time. So what I'm going to do, if I can even minimize this here, and I did not mean to minimize Azure, or this here. Oh, the other one already prompted. That was pretty fast, actually. It's going really fast as of today. But as that's going, what we'll do is we'll make our way back over to sync storage here, or storage sync. We were waiting for this to get set up. Because we're going to have to go set up a sync group. So I'm going to just call this KeyVos, make everything easy. We'll stick with that Azure subscription. We'll drop this down, and we'll choose KeyVos in here. And then for the Azure file share, we'll choose KeyVos. And once that's created, we'll click into that. And what we are trying to do is we're adding a cloud endpoint here. So we would choose our storage account, and we would choose this here and hit create. Okay, and so now we have a cloud endpoint, but we still have to continue on with our virtual machine here. So just wait until this is done. This will take a little bit of time, okay? All right, so now that we have that installed, the PowerShell for Resource Manager, what we're going to need installed is the Azure File Sync agent. In order to do that, we're going to have to go to the internet. But before we do that, we really want to turn off a particular feature. So turn back on protected mode. I was fiddling with it earlier, but if we were to go, and it doesn't matter where we go, we say Azure File Sync agent, okay? And if we were to go, see, we start getting this pop-up and it drives us crazy. So what we can do, because this isn't a big deal, it's just for testing here, we're going to turn that off. So go to your local server, and where it says IE Enhanced Security Configuration, click on that and just turn it off, you know, because it'll drive you crazy. And then we'll go back to Internet Explorer, completely close it, reopen it. And now what we can do is look for that Azure File Sync. So we'll type in Azure File Sync agent download. And this is Azure, Microsoft.com, maybe later for that experience. It's easier if you go to the Microsoft site. And if you go here, just give it a moment, scroll on down, click on the download button. And we want 2019, because that's the server we launched, right? And we're trying to sync with Storage Sync. So we'll go ahead and hit next. This is 50 megabytes, so it shouldn't take too long. And we're going to wait for it to download. If it doesn't, well, we'll say allow once for the site here. So maybe it was trying to download. Yeah, but there it goes. And we will save it. And we will always allow for Microsoft here. It's totally fine. And it's already finished downloading, so we'll go ahead and run that. And just give it a moment here. We'll hit next. We'll accept the terms. We'll install it there. That's totally fine. We'll use the existing proxy configuration. Custom configure proxy. Well, we don't have any custom, so we'll leave it alone. We'll leave Microsoft updates on. It'd probably be good to checkbox that on, but I'm just going to go install next here. All right, and so we'll let the agent install. Usually doesn't take too long. Anyway, I'll see you back here in a moment. All right, so now that we have our storage sync agent set up, we'll just hit finish here. And I don't know why it opened a bunch of windows, but that's just what it does. And so we're just going to wait for it to pop back up here. And then we'll say OK. And then what it'll want to do is connect. So it says Azure environment. So it is Azure Cloud, right? And I'm just going to sign into my account. And I'm going to try and log in here. So let me just go grab my credentials. All right, so I entered my credentials in here. So we'll go ahead and hit sign in, and we'll give it a moment there. We're going to choose our subscription. We'll choose our resource group, which is KeyBoss, and our storage sync there. Hit register. And I'll see you back here in a moment. All right, so it looks like our registration was successful. So that means that we should be able to create a server endpoint and go from there, okay? So I'm going to just go ahead and hit close. And I'll come back here to you in a moment. All right, so now what we're going to do is set up a folder for that we're going to want to be synced, okay? Because the idea is to back up or sync that directory there. So what's going to happen here is we're going to make our way down to File Explorer, and from this PC, I'm just going to go to the C drive. I made that other drive because I assumed we were just going to throw it on there, but honestly, I'm just going to put it in the Windows or the C drive here. We'll make a new folder called KeyBoss. We'll make it all lowercase, and inside of here, I'm just going to make a new file here called hello.txt. Nothing super exciting. And so probably we need to turn on sharing. So that's just a habit of mine. So we'll go to properties here, sharing, share, and we'll just make sure that Azure user has both that. And it'll ask us to turn network discovery on. We'll say, okay, KeyBoss, okay. I can't remember if we have to turn that on or not, but you know, as long as we get this working, that's the most important part here. So now that we have that going, what we want to do is make our way back to Azure here. And so we had our, what was the sync storages. And what we'll need to do is go into our sync storage once it ever lets us get there. We'll click on KeyBoss, and we'll go into sync groups. We'll click into our KeyBoss sync group. We have a cloud endpoint, but we'll need to create an add server endpoint. Drop down here, we have a registered server. So you know how we typed in our, we logged into the Azure File Sync agent. That's how this registered server is showing up. We're going to give it a path. So this is going to be C/KeyBoss, right? So this all looks okay. And what we'll do is we will say, let's just check this here. This is all okay, and we'll go ahead and hit connect. All right, and so this takes a little bit of time to provision. It's going to show up here in a moment. If I hit refresh, it's provisioning. So I'll see you back here in a bit. You know, I just remembered is that we do actually have to turn on cloud tiering, or it's going to stay in pending forever. So I'm going to go to enabled here, and always preserve specific percentage of free space on the volume. Sure, we can do 20% here. We don't need a date policy here, and this all looks okay, so we'll go ahead and hit save. Because if we don't do that, it's not going to actually, it's not going to move it to the cloud, right? So we'll give that a go. Oh, the health is good, but we'll just give it a moment here, okay? So we gave it a little bit of time here. It says the endpoint failed, which I really don't believe it because I just checked and it was working totally fine. But what I want to do is show you if I go over to Microsoft Azure here, and we go over to storage accounts, and we go to KeyBoss, and we go into file shares, and we click into this one. we can actually see the files here. So it clearly is syncing. I'm not sure why we got that error. I've never seen that error before. Cloud tiering is not supported for the specified path. Well, that's fine. Okay, so if the server path didn't work, maybe it's the cloud endpoint, but generally that is the workflow to get syncing working. So you pretty much have all the working knowledge you need. But what we'll do is go ahead and tear all this stuff down because we are 100% done. So I'm going to go to our resource groups here. And what we'll do is go into Kivas. And we'll just make sure that everything is there. Even the storage sync service, I just wanted to make sure it was all there. And what we'll do is go ahead and write in Kivas and go ahead and delete. And that should take everything down, no problem. All right, so there you go. All right, so just one more thing. I was doing that cleanup, and then today I woke up the next morning, and when I checked my resource groups, the Kivas was still here. So I went in here, and we still had the storage sync service. So what you're going to want to do is go in here, and I think what it wants you to do, actually tell us the message here if we go delete resource group. We type in Kivas. And it will complain that it still you have to get rid of the resources within it. So I already know that's going to fail. But what it wants you to do is delete the sync group, So if you select the sync group here and go ahead and delete that. We might also have to delete the endpoints first. Usually Azure is really great about tearing everything down, but in this case, it's not giving us a lot of help here. So we'll just say, yeah, we want to delete this endpoint too. Let's delete all the server endpoints. So you got to first delete the server endpoints, to delete the cloud endpoint, to delete the group, then to delete the actual service. So it's a little bit convoluted, but you know, I guess for whatever reason, this one is not automated like the other one. So just go through those processes, make sure that you get everything deleted out okay, and then you should be in good shape, okay?